There's additional way to earn money after you sell. So it's not just you get what you get up front and nothing else. There's potential rev share, potential earnouts, potential things you can get on top of what you get. Some companies give you equity. You might only sell for X, but when you put all the benefits and all the packages together, it's going to equal a larger sum.
Hey, before we get into the podcast, really quick, I want to tell you a little bit more about Medicare Masterclass. Medicare Masterclass is a training platform specifically for agents who want to sell more Medicare. And it's built by a Medicare agent named Ashley Van Gundy, who consistently writes over 150 policies per month, even outside of AAP. I'm going to say that again. Over 150 policies per month, even outside of AAP. And she doesn't have a massive team. She just has a really great sales process and her marketing is dialed in. So what does the platform include? Exactly that and much more. You're going to get the 7-step talk path to Medicare sales. So it's going to show you how to increase production. Then you're also going to get the lead generation mastery to show you how to dial in your marketing so you can have more leads than minutes in the day. So if you are a Medicare agent and you want to sell more Medicare, this is the best training platform available on the market. Go to MedicareMasterclass.com to enroll today. Let's get back into the podcast.
Before we get into it, I just want to say, for those of you that are watching, we appreciate everything. Those of you that subscribe, like the videos. We've gotten comments from agents who have watched our previous episode and a ton of value being given out. And today will be no different. We have Mike Mathweg here, E.G. Pronounce that correct? But yeah, this should be a big one. He built a massive Medicare business, exited, and now he shows a lot of other agents how to do the same exact thing, which we'll get into. So, Mike, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, man. I'm well. Thanks for hopping on here with us.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
Of course, of course. So let's start with your background in terms of professionally. How'd you get into Medicare? What was it like starting out? And kind of give us a step-by-step, like growth phases from first starting to that end point.
All right. So I started at Northwestern Mutual. Not a lot of people even know that, but I was one of the persons that got thrown up against the wall, see if you stick around. And I tell everybody that Northwestern Mutual has by far the best training for, like, if you've never been in sales, to take you from ground zero and build you up. I was pretty successful there. However, when I was graduating college, I knew somebody who was doing the Medicare space, and I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want to do this with you." He said, "You're not ready. Go get a job. Talk to me in 2 years." And when I was growing up, my parents always said, "Hey, you need a job, you need a steady income." And I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do. I love money, so let's go work at a bank. Worked at a bank, did that for about 2.5 years. They moved me down to Des Moines, Iowa, where I helped out with a merger, helped open up a couple loan production offices, and surprise, surprise, I'm not a very good 9-to-5 type of guy. I don't like being told what to do, when to do it. If there's a task, I'll get it done, and I don't need motivation. I have enough of that. So I was like, you know what? I want to get back into the insurance. So I reached out to the person I did 2 years prior, to the day. I said, "Hey, I want to do this." He goes, "Well, first of all, you actually came back and didn't just forget about it." So he's like, "You know what? I'll give you a shot." He was living in Wisconsin. His agency was in Wisconsin. I was in Des Moines, and he goes, "I don't have much support for you, but I can help you out in Wisconsin." So had my first AEP in Iowa. Massive failure. Wrote 12 apps. I was like, okay, this business sucks. However, in March of 18, I quit the banking world full time. I was driving from Des Moines, Iowa to Beloit, Wisconsin on a Monday, 4.5 hours one way. Ran appointments Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Got in the car, went home, and did that for about 2 months. Totaled 2 cars within 2 weeks of each other.
Oh, man.
Put on a lot of miles. So we ended up moving back to Wisconsin, where we live now in Madison, and business just kind of took off. I was driving 45 minutes to an hour, kitchen table to kitchen table, just writing apps. My mentor gave me a lot of support. The carriers gave us a lot of support. I wrote a lot of D-SNPs. I wrote anywhere from 120 to 175 a year, just straight D-SNPing with United Healthcare. Went into a lot of sketchy neighborhoods. I've seen a lot of interesting houses. But that's one area, if you're an agent and you want to grow your business quickly, hit up the D-SNPs. Not a lot of people I don't understand why people don't like working them, because they pay the same.
Me neither.
And they actually stick a lot better than people think. And then COVID happened. I don't know if you guys knew about that, but COVID happened in 2020.
Just found out about that a couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. World kind of shut down. People got a little goofy. And my business actually skyrocketed because I was all about technology. And UHC came out with this beautiful telesales app that anybody could do. And I was just smiling and dialing, writing business like no other. That was the first year I wrote, I think it was 263 MAPDs that year. And it just kept on going. And then in 2021, my mentor and I decided, hey, let's partner up and let's go buy some agencies. Bought some agencies. I bought into his agency. He was doing it for about 20 years. So I bought minority stake in his company. And then we just bundled everything all together and we sold it in August of 22 to a firm, not Integrity and not AmeriLife, because everyone asked, who'd you sell to? Neither of them. But no, so that's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of the story.
Yeah. 2018, I mean, that's like, I was thinking you were going to say 2000 or something, but 2018, I mean, that's not that long ago. And I love smiling and dialing. I'm going to remember that for sure. So what made you not, did you listen to a proposal from Integrity, or did you just I'm just curious because I a lot of people, it's that's who they get approached by. So I'm just curious if you were shopped it or
100%. So I actually pieced together a presentation called Structuring and Preparing Your Agency for a Transition that's actually CE approved. Can you believe it? You can get anything CE approved nowadays. So in there, I actually talk about you have to look at multiple offers. If you get one offer and you do nothing, if you don't even counter the offer, you're doing yourself a disservice. So we actually were approached by our IMO first, who I believe at that point in time sold to AmeriLife or was in the process of selling to AmeriLife. They approached us first and they said, hey, we want to buy you guys. And we're like, interesting, because I bought into the agency earlier that year. So our transaction closed early 2022. And the entire process was my mentor, business partner, was going to fade out in 5-7 years because he was approaching retirement. And it was the plan was for me to buy the other 50+%. And when we got that number, we were like, hold up. This isn't small chump change. So let's talk to other people. So we spoke to Integrity. We spoke to the company we sold to, and nothing wrong with Integrity. I have very good relationships with a lot of people at headquarters and a lot of the other partners at Integrity. But just for us, it wasn't a good fit. I was 29 years old when I sold. Wow. So I was playing the long game. I was like, I'm 29. I don't know what I'm going to insurance is all I know. I worked in banking for 2.5 years, but other than that, my entire professional career was insurance.
Right.
So I saw more upside in the company we sold to. Joke's on me. Last month, that company and I parted ways. So that's where I was kind of back to ground zero. That's why I created my consulting company. But no, Integrity, their offer was, everyone's offer was fair. It wasn't that Integrity was paying more than somebody else. If you look at it, it was pretty close. Maybe half a multiple better from one or the other. But across the
Right.
board, they were all solid deals.
What do you think made you decide to sell versus like keeping it? Was it, I mean, what was kind of your thought process? Like, okay, after this is over, I'm going to do this. Kind of like what you're doing now. Is that kind of what you saw coming down the pipeline?
Nothing. I did not
No.
see any of this come down the pipeline. My pipeline was, hey, we're going to sell. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing for 3 to 5 years, and I'm going to retire.
Wow. Retire
But,
at
Yeah, I'm like,
34?
wait,
I would
that's
retire from the
awful.
insurance industry at 34 because the thing with these deals, I don't want to say kickbacks, but there's additional way to earn money after you sell. So
Right.
it's not just you get what you get up front and nothing else. There's potential rev share, potential earnouts, potential things you can get on top of what you get. Some companies give you equity. So it's like you might only sell for X, but when you put all the benefits and all the packages together, it's going to equal a larger sum.
Right.
But when I was, like I said, I was 29 years old and I was staring at 3 multi-million-dollar offers. And I was like, I don't like it's dumb. It was dumb for us not to do it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we got in the nick of time because I think a week or 2 weeks after we closed, they shut down all M&A altogether. Because that's where interest rates started skyrocketing and money got very expensive.
Right. Right. Man, I mean, that's a short time span from first AAP 12 apps to 5 years later, looking at a bunch of big offers. And I'm curious to kind of backtrack. When you were first starting, was there anything that clicked for you to go from not doing well to just writing apps all the time? Or was it just an experience thing?
There's two things. And my mentor really helped me like kind of shape my mindset when I was getting into this business because he was doing it for 20 some years. So he was very knowledgeable. But the thing is, it's like if you do something part-time, you're never going to fully see your full potential.
100%.
So the big difference is when I went part-time to full-time because when I was doing part-time, I was working at the banks. I had a 9 to 5 job. And I was calling people at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. But then I can only see people at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
And when I was doing kitchen tables, it's like, okay, I get done with work at 5. I can be at your house at 5:45. Okay, I have time to write 1 app. Maybe a husband and wife write 2 apps. But it wasn't like that. And it was just, if you want to be in any business, I don't care if it's insurance, consulting, be a golf pro, whatever. Like you have to be all in.
Yeah.
Like you have to put in the long hours, which when I was building my book of business, I was meeting at 8 a.m. and getting done at 8, 9 o'clock.
Right.
Working 10, 12, 13-hour days, not just during AEP. And that's why I did a lot of DSNP is because I can write DSNP all year long. Everybody hits up the T65 market. Everybody hits up T65. Nobody's hitting up the DSNPs.
Yeah. Was there specific areas you would go? Like if I'm a new agent and I want to write a bunch of DSNPs, where should I go? Where should I be worried about going? And is there anywhere that's too sketchy to go?
If you're in a state where you can get a concealed carry, do it. But also there's some, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I would go in like the sketchy parts of Milwaukee, but I knew I had to be out of there by noon, 1 o'clock.
Noon?
Like, you just know where you can and can't go.
Yeah.
Like, I parked down some like blocks away and walked to a house because I was like, okay, they're not going to see what kind of car I'm in. Like, it was. But the thing is, those people are so appreciated that you're taking time and doing it. And guess what? You surround yourself with people that are like you. So guess what's going to happen? If one of your clients are DSNP, they probably hang out with other DSNPs.
Right.
I probably got more referrals from DSNPs than I did in my own normal Medicare clients.
100%. Yeah, they're all in a similar situation.
How did you get them to begin with? Like, were they like from the carriers or kind of a mix?
A lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I was fortunate to get a lot of support from the carriers. And the thing is, if you're an agent that don't get support from the carriers, reach out to your carrier rep. Like, they want agents to do the right thing for the clients. And if you're actually producing, the likelihood of you getting thrown into that hat is greater than other people. But the thing is, like, I used to work the Walmarts, worked Walgreens, worked Kroger's. When I was getting started, I worked anything and everything that I could do. Where I could pounded streets. I went to remember this was 2018, 2019, where things were a little bit looser than what they are now. But Section 8 housing, ice cream socials, root beer float socials, pizza. Like, I would just reach out to the people and say, hey, I like reach out to the manager of the place. Say, hey, I know you, this is what I do. Your residents may be interested in it. Can I come and do an ice cream social? Sure. Everybody comes. So I mostly worked in actually Rock County, which is the county underneath where I live. 35-minute drive at minimum. And I worked all of that out. Everyone that was in Medicare, Medicaid, housing, I called and just got in.
Wow.
That's cool.
Because the thing is, you got to stand out. Like, there's hundreds of agents, thousands of agents all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's like, you got to do something different than what your competitors are doing.
Right. So is that, once you bought into your mentor's agency, were you still doing the DSNPs, or what was the split like? Was it 80-90% DSNP and then the other time spent regular apps, or how did you structure it?
So our agency was a little bit different. So, like, I wrote, my business partner, he wrote, we had some LOAs, we had some brokers, but we just kept on, him and I, we just wrote. Like, we didn't, if he was, part of the reason our agency was all remote, we never had an office because I either was in Wisconsin, I traveled a lot. My business partner was either in Cabo, Dallas, or Wisconsin. Like, he was all over the place. So we did everything with our computers.
Wow.
Would you recommend that?
100%. 100%. Unless if you're in like a rural area. Because you look at it, you probably can't find rent for $1,500-$2,500. If you have like a team of people, it's like, okay, you got to write. I'm a numbers guy, if you couldn't figure that out. So you're going to pay $30,000 a year for rent. So you got to write 67 apps to break even just to cover your rent.
Right.
New.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, 6 apps a month just covers our rent. Is it worth it? Do you have 6 apps walking through the door every single month?
Yeah.
But it all depends. Like, once again, I know someone I talk to quite often, like, for his agency, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So it's just you got to break down on yours. Like, does it make sense to your agency or not?
Right.
Yeah, so like
Gotcha.
our offices, we have locations, but again, we're in a more rural environment. And I always recommend too, if you're gonna invest in a location, like have it be like your billboard, like have it be where traffic's coming by, and if you put out stuff that people are gonna see it and actually want to walk in, not in just some area where some big building where no one's ever gonna drive by and notice that you're there. You want it
Mm-hmm.
to also like double, like I think about it as a billboard. Like if I paid this much for a billboard, then I can deduct that from my office space because I make my office space be my billboard. So, and again, we're in a more rural area, so things are definitely more cost effective than like a big city.
Yeah. Yeah. I just look at, because I'm in a suburb of Madison, but if I want an office in Madison for like 1,000 square feet, it's $30,000 a year. And it's like, okay, I'm in an office building. There's nothing, like nobody knows I'm there unless you Google me. So it just depends on where you're at, what you're going after. Depends if things like that make sense.
Right. So just to kind of be clear here, when you guys got the offers on the business to exit, was that the first time you guys thought about exiting, or was there kind of like a plan? No?
There was not really. Our plan was Mike's going to buy in. We're going to keep building the agency just like how we were doing. I was going to write business. He was going to write business. We're going to look at potentially bringing on some new agents and just keep on going. And it just was like, hey,
Gotcha.
we got this offer. Like, we have to, like, it was a big enough number that we said, hey, we got to seriously consider it.
Yeah. Did you know the potential in exiting from a business like that, or not
God,
until you
no.
seen the offers?
Not. I knew, like, at the time the multiples were about 3.5. So I knew what business was worth. I paid a premium to be an owner in the agency because I was playing the long game.
Right.
And that's the thing, you just got to know what game are you playing? You playing the long or short game? Either way is fine, but you just have to know. But no, and then when we got that first offer, like we can get this and walk away tomorrow. Like the first offer that we got, looking back on it, it was all of revenue, and it was for us to walk. And we wouldn't have had non-competes, I don't think. So it was. I was just mind blown by that first offer, and that's where we were like, okay, let's go. Let's look at other places and let's see
Right.
what's out there.
Gotcha. Do you think that people just getting in to the Medicare space, new agents, if they want to make it a career long term, is an exit strategy something they should consider, and how soon should they start thinking about that? What's your thoughts on that? Because I've heard people that have sold businesses and they're like, your first couple of years, don't even think about exiting. But from your experience, when should that be a conversation?
Day one. I'm the
Really?
complete opposite of everyone else. Because you got to have, and this is why I tell everybody, it's like you have to have some sort of plan. There's 3 ways to get out of this business. You die. Business is gone. You sell, or you're disabled and cannot work.
Right.
I want one of those 3 options.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So the thing is, you got to have, like, you got to have some sort of exit strategy. It does not mean you have to implement it. Like if it's like you're getting married soon.
Yeah.
If something happens to you, do you want your wife to lose all of that revenue?
Yeah. Right.
So even if it's like, hey, something happens to me, call so-and-so and they can help you take care of it. Like it's just little things like that. But then once you get bigger, it's like, okay, what do I want to do with this? A presentation I gave last week at that conference, they 2 people were like, I want to sell this to my kids. Okay, there's your exit strategy.
Yeah.
But then someone's like, well, if I can get a bigger multiple and more money not selling it to my kids, I'll do that. So it just depends on like what you want, but you got to think about it. And that's the thing is like there's so many agents I talk to that one kind of think about it, but just aren't realistic. Like one agency I talked with, he was like, I want $5 million for my agency. I'm like, okay, what's your revenue? 500,000? Like, good luck. Not happening.
Right.
But I can help if your goal is 500, if your goal is $5 million payout, I'll help you get there. You just got to do you got to do little things that make a big difference.
Right.
So like looking back on how you got started and to where you're at now, is there anything that you would have done differently?
This is value right here, Mike. We got to hear it.
100%. So there's two things I would do a lot differently. And this is all just tease up this entire presentation I put together is like, you got to time your exit. The reason what I mean by that is like when I sold, I was $1.5 million in debt. Not a lot of people know that. And that eats up a lot of money when you sell your agency for a good chunk of change. So it's like, that's one area that I screwed up and I just did not. Just timing was too quick. There was nothing wrong with any of it. It's just the timing wasn't right.
So you would have got out of debt a little more or completely before doing it?
I would have got out of debt all or very little.
Gotcha.
But the thing is, going back to like building the agency, I would have gone a lot more heavy on the LOA route that we did not do a good job of because our agency was very close knit. It was the agency owner, myself, his cousin is my aunt, his sister-in-law, his wife's best friend growing up. So we were all a very close knit family, some sort of way. But we still wrote there were six to eight of us. We wrote 1,200 apps a year. Like we were a very small group, big producer. So it was just very unique. I would if I started all over again today, I would do LOA route and have iron tight LOA contracts.
What does iron tight mean? So I'm curious about that because that's kind of how my business is structured. Is I'm LOA primarily as we have employees and they write business for the agency.
So there's a couple things what I mean by iron tight. One, I know even with the new FTC stuff, non-competes. Like, gotta have a non-compete in there. Gotta have non-solicitation, non-competition. Like, you gotta put as much stuff in there as possible to protect you that they can't go out, say, peace, I just wrote you 1,000 apps and I'm going to go next door and I'm going to rewrite everybody.
Right.
Like, your book of business is your largest asset.
It is.
So you got to protect it. Also, you also got to look at it too. It's like, okay, do you want to have some sort of vesting for your agents? Like, it's all about the culture you want. Do you want to turn and burn and type of employees? I know I wouldn't. And then you got to look at, okay, it depends on how you want to structure it. You can be like, if the agency sells, you could get Y. Or you could put something in there where they have incentive to keep on writing business. And they know if something happens on the line, you sell, I get a little piece of the pie.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because I was just about to ask if the people that help build up the agency, obviously, if they get taken care of, which in most cases they do.
It just all depends. It depends on how your contracts are set up, depends on how you have it. Like, actually, for an example, let's say if you lost 2 LOAs, but then you sold your business next year, like, do you have to give them money? Do you not? Like, and that's the thing is, like, you just got to decide how do you want to do it. And
I've been thinking about that a lot too, honestly, because I do think like, especially in the world of Medicare, everything is so downline and this and that. So it's like, it really is kind of a different scenario to nurture an LOA shop and have, people coming in and then they just don't know the communication and everything. And so, it's just difficult. And so I think like long term, like having people that, hey, you've been with me this long and then you're with me this long, like you get this much, and maybe it's like a bonus or something, but on like when they leave, I don't know. That's where it could get kind of tricky, because if they quit or leave, then it's like, I don't want to have them invested in part of the business anymore. But I think long term for retention, that's definitely something
Yeah.
that I've been thinking a lot about, because, people want to be behind building something. And yeah, they don't want to go out and do everything that you're doing and all the stuff that you do, but they want to like feel like they're in a place where they can grow. And I have some people that are producing a lot, but at a certain point it's like you're kind of at your level. You can't,
Yeah.
if you're already
And
working 7 to 8, you don't have any more time really to keep working.
yeah. And that's something like one of my clients, because I'm helping him build out his LOA model. And so I said, hey, like there's nothing wrong with you as the agency owner to say, hey, I will give you 30% of all commission, renewal, new business, whatever. You leave, you lose it all. It's the golden handcuffs. If someone's
Yeah.
collecting $100,000 a year from you, are they going to leave? Probably not likely.
Yeah.
But then you also got to be the other thing to be on the safe side, though, is you got to have some sort of clause in there if they're with you and you sell. Because when you sell, they go through, like, as an entrepreneur, how fun it is to buy a house. It's about 18 times worse selling your business, because they go through everything to figure out what EBITDA is. So that's the thing, is you just got to figure out, okay, how, if I do sell, you could pay them out on that 30% for an example, and they go back to normal salary.
Right.
Because it would be more appealing to the buyer for you to buy out your employees' renewals, and it would also help you on the bottom line, which in turn gives you more money up front. So there's a lot of things in this. A lot of people I talk to, is like every deal's not the same. There's nothing normal, but when it comes to M&A, nothing is normal. Every deal's different.
Right.
So your business now, what is your focus? What do you do? How do you help agents and business owners?
Great question. So what I do now is I created Next Gen Consulting, with the entire purpose is to help agencies get to an 8-figure exit, and on their terms. I created really the 3 S's. Step 1 is structure, and that's part of like the LOA model. You got to have a good structure in place. You got to have, everyone hates it, but you got to have SOPs. Like, you got to have things in place that will make your life simple when you're not there. And then 2, you got to look at your systems. Once your systems and structure actually work together and not opposite directions, then it's time for you to scale. And scaling is really done 2 ways: organically or acquisitions. So I'll help my clients out with the acquisitions. If they find a deal and they're like, Mike, here it is, what are your thoughts? We'll help them do the due diligence, help them structure an offer, and they go forward with it.
So like for us, I've bought one agency, and it was just someone that was in my downline. We were super close. They were moving out of the state, and they were like, hey, it just doesn't make sense for us when you live here. You could take great care of our clients. And so they sold their book of business here to me, and it was a few hundred people. But that's something that is really interesting to me. But besides that one, I'm like, how do you kind of like, do people actually just like call other Medicare agencies and just say, hey, are you interested in selling, or like what kind of environment do you kind of find out, what people might be primed that may want to sell?
Yes, when we were going through our acquisition process, I called every agency. Like just like how I would sell people Medicare plans, I would sell them to sell their book to me.
Wow.
There's also brokers. Like there's just like how there are brokers in the real estate business, there's brokers that sell agencies, consultants that will help find agencies. Facebook group, people post all there all the time. Hey, I'm looking at getting out here. What are your thoughts? It's really,
Wow.
it's kind of just like marketing. Like you have all these different buckets that all come better or worse at certain times. So it's like I probably have about 6, 7 different brokers that send me business. I have about 3 or 4 just people I know in the industry that will refer me business when someone says, "Hey, I'm looking at selling." I'm not buying businesses anymore. I cannot. I have a non-compete, so I'm not selling insurance. There's not. I'm making that very clear. I'm just helping people that either one are my clients that want to, hey, Mike, I'm looking at growing and they want to do acquisitions. I'll help them. If I find someone that wants it, I'll help them with it. The thing is just, actually, it's just kind of the same thing. How do people know you do health insurance?
Right.
It's really the same thing. Like, hey, tell the world that, hey, I want to buy a business. Things come very, very, very random in this world. So, but brokers help a lot. However, when there's brokers involved, brokers charge a fee. Sometimes the buyer pays, sometimes the seller pays. But I really enjoy the M&A route. The M&A it's the quickest way to grow.
Right.
And for people that don't know what that means, like how would you explain that? Like
M&A or quickest way to grow?
The M&A.
M&A is mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
So the easiest way to do it is go out, find someone that wants to sell their agency and buy it. And then do the paperwork to transfer it into your agency. I highly recommend everyone to do an asset purchase agreement because you're buying their actual asset, not their entities.
Right.
Because the last book we ever purchased, the entity was a hot mess.
Oh, man.
You don't want to get stuck with hot messes.
Yeah.
So you could even just buy the assets and not the entity?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want that entity. I just want what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Just the client.
Asset purchase agreements make the most... the reason I'd say they make the most sense is because you already have an entity. You already have contracts. If you do an asset purchase agreement, you can take all of their assets in that entity and transfer them to your entity. Rather than buying their entity, then transferring it all, paying an accountant to close down that entity, who knows what creditors from 5, 10, 15 years ago might come knocking.
Mm-hmm.
You buy an entity and there's a creditor, guess what? They're now your creditor.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just about to say, you probably get to avoid all of the cats in the bags by not taking the entity.
And that's the thing, like when in my presentation talking about the agency side of things, it's like you got to craft your team. Like you got to have a team. You can't do this by yourself. You need an accountant. Everyone hates accountants, but you need them. Everyone hates attorneys, but you need them. You need to have someone on your team that has done it before. So a broker, consultant, a banker. Probably a good idea to have a very good relationship with a banker. Because when you want money, who are you going to talk to? Someone who has all the money. Talk to a banker.
Did any of your banking experience come into play?
Kind of a loaded question. Like my relationships in the banking world, no.
No, not the relationship.
But just like
just
the
like
knowledge.
Any skills you have. Yeah. Skills and knowledge,
Well, I also graduated college with accounting and finance majors, so that kind of helped out a lot.
Right.
But the thing is, you just gotta. The big thing I always tell people is like you gotta have options. You can't take the first yes or the first no. If someone says no, go talk to somebody else. Like, if a client says no to you, do you just quit? Do you never talk to them ever again? Like, the first bank we talked to said no, and then I went back to them with a different proposal, and they said yes, and they gave me at 28 years old $1 million loan.
Wow.
Like, what bank in the right mind gives $1 million unsecure, no assets, like money? Like, it's crazy. But thing is, banks look at cash flow. If a business you're going to buy cash flows, they love you, even if
Right.
it's tangible or intangible assets. That was the biggest
Okay.
thing that I saw when we were starting to buy agencies, is that there's nothing like a book of businesses. Nothing's tangible about it. The clients. So you got to find a bank that actually will look outside the box. Wells Fargo, BMO Harris, Chase, all of them, they're probably not your good fit unless you have a ton of money with them and a great relationship.
Right.
So I worked with a small regional bank and they got it done.
What
Wow.
was your retention like on the book of businesses that you bought? And do you have any like tips or tricks or things that you're like, hey, this seemed to really like, work or help with retention?
I'm laughing because remember when I said an iron tight LOA agreement?
Yeah.
That came back and bit us in the egg real quick on one of our books. So that's things like you got to have, like, that one was just a complete disaster. We lost 50% of the revenue day one.
Wow.
Whoa. Was
Yeah,
it the
big hit.
agent that sold it to you or one of their employees?
It was the agency owner, and it was just the
Okay, what would
agreements
say
were.
that?
It was all came down. It was fun. It was a fun battle, but it was all about like just hire attorneys. But it's just, you got to look at everything. You got to look at carrier contracts. You got to look at any contract, any LOA contract, any contract that's out there. You need to look at. You need to review. You need to pay an attorney to review. Don't do it on the cheap end, because it can get expensive in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, I know
You got to do it right.
Yeah, and I've seen with like downline agents or like people that we've talked to, because it is a different concept. I know now like people are kind of like, yeah, we probably need to, for a business model, to go more towards the LOA structure. And not everyone's built to be an agency owner. Like there's some great agents out there, but they're not, they would do much better in a business type structure and thrive more. So I think like with the contracts, it's kind of something that, I've seen agents where they have just assignment of commission, but not an actual LOA contract. So they're assigning their commissions to the entity, but if that employee leaves and it's just an assignment of a commission, they can reassign it to themselves when they quit. So it's like, that's one thing that I've definitely seen, is that people don't always have an LOA contract, even though they are technically an employee and that employer's paying for that marketing or feeding them those appointments or those sales. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. But what other things, is there anything else like that I should pay attention to, or is that kind of like the foundation?
Like when it comes to buying books.
Or just like, you have these contracts, is that kind of, if they have the LOA contract from the carrier, is that kind of like, hey, that means that they're just license only, they're not, they don't own it?
Yeah, I think like the big six carriers, you're fine. Like the small regional ones, that's where we got, and that's where we caught our snag. was the small regional ones did something that they weren't supposed to do, and it just was deciding like, okay, how much of a fight do you want to have?
Yeah.
So if the carrier says they're LOA, you're good. But like the smaller regional ones, I would just take a extra look at, have conversations, and have a conversation with the carrier. Like if you have a small regional by you, get you and the seller and the carrier on the phone and get everything documented. And say, hey, there's 16 agents here. Are all of them LOA? Do they own their book of business, or does the agency owner own their book of business? You got to figure out exactly, hey, who owns what? Does the agency owner, you for an example, Ashley, does Ashley own the business, or does Rob own the business? Because if Rob owns the business, then when I buy your book, Ashley, like I'm taking out Rob's business because you don't own it.
Yeah.
So you just got to do a lot of deep due diligence, like, hey, who actually owns what? Is there some contract that Ashley has with Rob saying, Rob, even though I own your book of business to the carrier, I'm giving you 100% of your book of business so you can do what you want with it. Like, to me as a buyer, Ashley, you don't own that business because I'm legally liable to give that business to Rob. So there's just things like that you got to look out for. But once again, those really come up when you're buying agencies. But if you're buying a couple hundred here, it's not really going to happen. But it's the bigger, larger agencies where it gets very complex.
Gotcha. I want to shift gears a little bit. And earlier in the conversation, you said you were a technology guy, and when COVID hit, that really helped. So I like technology myself. What helped you when the pandemic hit? And if you were to start all over, is there any technology that you would implement immediately that could accelerate the agency?
Yes, I would find a CRM, find a quote enrollment software, Sunfire, Connecture, Ascend, whichever one, and make sure they sync together. The worst thing agents do is they'll go to Sunfire, search. When they write the application, they'll go back to their CRM, type all the information in. Oh, I need a policy number. Got to go here, get a policy number. You have to limit double entry as much as possible.
Right.
And that's the key that I really found a lot of success in. Is like my business partner and I, we paid for Connecture for our agency.
And that one's expensive. I've looked at it and I'm like, oh, I like it, but
it's cheaper than Sunfire.
What?
It's cheaper than Sunfire.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, when we got our Sunfire quote, we were like, oh yeah, no. It was I think it was over $100,000.
Whoa.
Like we did this back in 2021. I don't know if prices have changed. I haven't talked to either of them, but yeah, Sunfire. We did Sunfire. We did Connecture, and we went with Connecture because Connecture connected with Agency Block, and we were using Agency Block. So I was able to press one button, everything went over to Connecture, and I was done. And when I wrote the application, it all came back into Agency Block. That is not a plug. That's not a plug. Nope, not promoting it. But that's just what I used.
Gotcha.
I looked at Agency Block too. There were some things that I liked, but then there were some things that I thought were like, I was like, oh, it's kind of archaic. But I liked the like how they had everything for like processing commissions. But then again, seemed like a lot of like entry that you still had to do on your part to get it to process right. Did you guys
we never
that issue, or was it easy?
No, so my business partner, he handled all commissions and he handled it all through spreadsheets. So we never did the Agency Block commissioning side of things. I know a bunch of people that do and they love it. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of upfront work, but long term, they say it's super easy. But I also like Medicare CRM Pro is a good one. Go high level on everyone that has access to Go High Level, which is hundreds of agents. Theirs are all good. It's just you gotta decide what you want from it. And that's a lot of things agents like, I don't know. Like, what do you want your system to do?
Right.
And then find one that fits your needs.
I know. I feel like I'm that one where I want like this for that, but I like this for that and that for that. So can we just like get them all
You know how you do that? You build your own.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm like my wheelhouse is like yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Agents just I love when I talk to people that want to sell. They're like, I was like, so what CRM you got? Spreadsheets. Okay.
Pounds. No, just kidding.
Gotcha. Cool. Any other technology? I mean, a CRM, I feel like some people might not have, but they definitely should. That's like one of the basics. But once you start building your business, was there anything like when you went from doing kitchen tables to smiling and dialing, what was that transition like? Like, did you have to do anything in specific or same conversation?
It was exactly the same conversation because like we created a sales website that literally did all my selling on from my sales website. When I got done with the sales website, I went over to the CRM, which took me then to the quote enrollment. And I just did what I did because when I was selling, I had an iPad. So it literally was like I was doing everything technology face to face anyways. So nothing
Right.
really changed. It was just rather than kitchen table, Zoom. Or if it's phone
Gotcha.
call. It just depends on what the person wanted.
Did you get any resistance going to technology, like with Zoom and stuff like that? And how did you handle it?
No, because it was COVID and they had to do it because nobody could go
Good point.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
But it was you just had to be as the agent, like you had to know what was available to you. Like this was back in 2020 when technology was not where it's at now.
Right.
Like I don't even think Connecture even had the phone application process. So it's like you have to like know what was available to you. Like I wrote a ton of UHC during COVID because they had a system that made it easy to write.
Gotcha.
But nowadays everything's different. You got to figure, okay, what do you want? Like,
Would you push for in-home appointments? Like, would you have more success? Like, because you know, sometimes with the phone ones, like I feel like you call and then like they don't answer, and you're like, ah. Especially with the 48-hour rule, that's like definitely affected us because it's like you schedule this appointment, especially on the duals, and then it's like 48 hours goes by and then they don't answer for their call. Did you find that you had equal success, or was one better for you than the other?
I would say it was about the same because they knew during COVID no face to face was actually happening.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like you got to systemize. This goes back to the systems, the things I help agencies get to. Is like you got to systemize as much as you possibly can. The 48-hour scope, you as the agent do not need to be sending it. There's things around, systems that are around that will do it automatically for you. That will send it to the person. They fill it out. They send it back to you. Okay, boom, done. You're moving on to the next one.
Right.
So it's all about systems. I could talk an hour on systems that you need.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm not sure, Ashley, if you have any burning last questions, but this has been phenomenal. I think most of the conversation was high level, and any agents that are looking to scale and sell or anything like that, I mean, this is a great listen. Mike, if that's something that they're looking to do and they want to work with you, how do they do that?
Very simple. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Mike Mathweg. I'm very original. You can go to my
WEG.
WEG. You can go to my website, mikemathweg.com. You can find me on there. Mike@mikemathweg.com is my email. Everything is my name. So it's very easy to track me down.
How'd you
I'm
get
only
that?
bringing on.
How'd you get your name as your social media handles? Is your name just that unique or what? Because I can't really get mine.
The world does not want two Mike Mathwegs. But yeah, I'm only bringing on 10 clients. There's only a couple spots left. One-on-one coaching is really the way to go, or group coaching. So that's really the two ways to work with me. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Everybody watching, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. We bring on the top people and give out value for you to grow. And Mike puts out a lot of videos as well, and all sorts of tips and stuff like that to scale and grow. So check that out as well. But with that, we're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quick, I want to tell you a little bit more about Medicare Masterclass. Medicare Masterclass is a training platform specifically for agents who want to sell more Medicare. And it's built by a Medicare agent named Ashley Van Gundy, who consistently writes over 150 policies per month, even outside of AAP. I'm going to say that again. Over 150 policies per month, even outside of AAP. And she doesn't have a massive team. She just has a really great sales process, and her marketing is dialed in. So what does the platform include? Exactly that and much more. You're going to get the 7-step talk path to Medicare sales. So it's going to show you how to increase production. Then you're also going to get the lead generation mastery to show you how to dial in your marketing so you can have more leads than minutes in the day. So if you are a Medicare agent and you want to sell more Medicare, this is the best training platform available on the market. Go to MedicareMasterclass.com to enroll today.